Hello and welcome to this special edition of Africa Here and Now, the conversation you've always wanted to have about the continent. I'm Martine Dennis. Today, as we contemplate a new year, I thought we deserved a look at some of the lighter moments of 2024. It's not all about coups, conflict and geopolitics. For example, the former Nigerian Super Eagle, EFAN EKOKU, gave us a laugh over the Africa Cup of Nations held in February. EFAN, can I ask you to put your neck on the line then, and who are you putting your money on to win this year's AFCON?
Well, I think the defending champions, Senegal, have to be taken seriously. Ivory Coast, of course, on home soil, very hard to beat, inspired by their own local fans. Morocco, I think, could get to the semi-final. I think it depends on their mentality. And then outsiders, Ghana, Nigeria, or perhaps Cameroon. So right now, I'll put money on Senegal or Ivory Coast. Yeah, just not my own money.
Okay. And annoyingly, EFAN was right, wasn't he? Côte d'Ivoire won. And we continued with the football. DONU, chatting with super pundit Gary Al-Smith, revealed that the well-known rivalry between South Africa and Nigeria was about a lot more than just football.
I mean, honestly, the allegations against Nigeria by South Africans, they're multiple. Apart from the economic envy, there are legitimate complaints about obnoxiousness. Nigerians can be very obnoxious.
Oh, yeah.
As anybody who knows me knows. Then there's the fact that Nigerian men are always stealing South African women. This is what a South African guy said to me. They should leave our women alone.
It's such a big deal, and it's all over social media.
It's a big
and you
deal.
see the Nigerians saying, well, this is why we take your women.
You know what the Nigerian politician said to me when I said, oh God, they've started whinging about the women thing again. And he said, okay, so we steal their women. Well, if they had any balls, they would steal them back.
Remember the hue and cry following the coup in Niger? DONU managed to get an exclusive with Olusegun Obasanjo, the former Nigerian president, who explained the closeness of ties between Nigeria and Niger in a rather interesting way.
Let me tell you what a colleague of mine used to say. When a woman is cooking her soup in Maradi, he will send her daughter to go across the border and buy salt for the soup in Maradi.
And from soup to family dinners. After all the serious talk about the forthcoming South African elections, political analyst Moletsi Mbeki, younger brother to the former South African president Thabo Mbeki, gave us a rare glimpse into Mbeki family life. I just wondered, what are relations like between you and your bro? What are family dinners like?
Well, in my family, we've been in politics, I think, for over 150 years. And we have a golden rule that we don't interfere in each other's opinions. So I have no idea. Only my mother occasionally used to query political decisions of the male members of the family.
In the summer, we talked to Zeinab Badawi about her new book, An African History of Africa. It's an impressive achievement that Zeinab told us was a decade in the making. But I wanted to find out a little bit more about her. And finally, Zeinab, many people know so much about you, or think they do. I wanted to ask you something that perhaps we don't know about you. What's your guilty pleasure, for instance?
My guilty pleasure. Well, I'm trying to cut down on it, but I would have to say my favourite food is chocolate. Really good chocolate. 60 to 70%. About 60% is my ideal, but I'm trying to cut down on my sugar. When people if you go to a fancy meal or something, they have the plate of petit four. Most people would content themselves with this one. I would just want to demolish the entire plate.
Zimbabwe's renowned journalist and activist Hopewell Chin'ono excelled himself in his efforts to get Zimbabwean youngsters to vote, and this always makes me smile.
Them loot. In order to stop the looting, you got to vote. You got to vote. I'm Daddy Hope and I'm out.
Hopewell, I know you're a man of many talents, but you're also a good rapper.
I didn't realize I had that talent until I got fed up with corruption in Zimbabwe.
Did you practice a lot?
No, it was actually, I was bored on a Sunday. I'd just come from prison after my third arrest for exposing corruption. And I just did a challenge for young people because I realized that in order to engage with young people, you have got to do the things that they relate to.
Now, we were lucky to have as a guest panellist the legendary Veronique Edwards. She made us howl with laughter when she put it to Martin Kalima of the Tony Blair Institute that Malawians had been wary of double-decker buses. So she asked, how are they dealing with artificial intelligence?
Martin, when I was in Malawi at one point, during the introduction of the decker bus, people didn't understand the concept of having just one driver at the bottom and an empty seat upstairs with no driver there. And most of them refused to go upstairs. And so I'm just wondering, with this technology that you're trying to give them, are they asking you?
It becomes hard. You bring all this tech transformation and all that to the masses, but they don't know how to use technology. And that's why now I was saying the government has invested actually in digital skills capacity building, digital skills training. I've been on a double-decker bus when I was a child. It was really hard to be convinced to get onto the double decker, to go onto the upper deck when you see that there's no one driving it up there. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Whilst chatting to Abdi Hakim Ainte from the Somali Prime Minister's office about the changes underway in his country, I heard of an intriguing craze that was sweeping Somalia. Many girls born are being called Istanbul, is that right?
And biased love for Turkey, simply because they are not only a Muslim but also they have been with us when I think we needed the most. And it's no secret that we love Turkish delights. There's a lot of Turkish investment and there's a lot of economic integration between the two countries and also some educational integration as well, two countries. So giving Istanbul to our girls, I think it's a one way of saying thank you.
We had a fabulous chat with the irrepressible Zambian Anglican Bishop Trevor Mwamba. He shared his thoughts with us on Christianity at a time when the then British Conservative government had a controversial plan to fly refugees to Rwanda. What do you think of today's environment and landscape in terms of Christian values, I guess? I mean, how would Jesus fare in 2024?
Jesus, when he was born, Mary, Joseph, Jesus, they were refugees off. They went to Egypt. They were refugees. I would think that in 2024, if Jesus had to flee and would have fled to England because of his immigration policies as it stands now and he would have been most likely put on a plane flying off to Rwanda. Point is, we have lost our humanity, we have lost our compassion.
The rise of Kemi Badenoch to the top of Britain's Conservative Party gave us lots to talk about. She's upset so many Nigerians by portraying the country she was brought up in a bad light. So DONU had a few words of advice for the Tory leader.
What advice would I give to her? Well, what I'd say to her is, look, some of the things she says are totally, totally stupid. Like her claim, I think I've said this before, her claim that Britain's wealth was not in any way significantly impacted by slavery or colonialism. I mean, it's not just stupid, it's a lie, okay? Then again, she does say some things that are sensible. So my advice to her is, you know what? No matter how upset you are about the way Nigeria treated you or your family, and no matter how relieved you were when you eventually wound up in London, try and remember that, you do come from somewhere and that one day you may be happy, you and your children may be happy to have an alternative hope somewhere else in the world that you can count as your own.
We covered Botswana's historic election with several voices, none perhaps more significant than that of the former president, Ian Khama, who gave Africa Here and Now an interview. Despite all my hard work, for many people, it was the video of the former president dancing that impressed them most. In our most recent episode, DONU shared her admiration for the newly elected president of Namibia, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, the country's first female leader. After extolling the virtues of women bosses, DONU threw down the gauntlet to Patrick to explain the intricacies of the energy choices before the new president.
Patrick, who's a professor of complications, might be able to tell us a little bit more about that.
Some people would say a cause of complications, in fact. But I think the general perception is, without trying to curry favor with you and Martine too much, is that women tend to be a little bit more honest than men, generally speaking.
Finally, an admission from Patrick.
And that ends our look at some of the highlights of 2024. There are loads more interesting interviews and chats. You can see them on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to subscribe and share with your friends. AfricaHere&NOW.com is our website. We're on all the socials. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of. Our thanks to all our guests who've given us so much to think about, and our thanks to you, our audience, for all the support you've shown us. And don't you just love our music? It was composed specially for us by the very talented Enric Adam. Anne Busby is our producer. Tevin Sudi and Charlie Panton put the show together. That's it from me, Martine Dennis, for now.